Shalom, shalom. All praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Kakodash. And double honors to the apostles of GMS, those who rule well. This, I wanted to do a real quick response video. All right. Salutations to the Akim of the Shepherd of Berea camp. I'm your Lakmar off from the Shepherd of Berea camp. This was a very edifying video that I watched from the priest Karaka Kahan. And this video pretty much, check it out. The response I'm doing is in regards of the modern day Egypt, which we know is this current society, all right, that we're living in, which is America, is the ultimate truce breaker. And the brother went into the Prophet went into the different truce breakers they did with so-called Native Americans. You know, over 368 treaties that was mentioned, that was documented on paper. Could be more, right? And what came to mind to my spirit was, this is exactly why the scriptures say that I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. And Lord's will is edifying. If I haven't, once again, all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Kakodash, double honors to the apostles of GMS. But this is why it says this in Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy. Now, when you go on to the word confederacy, it means alliance. And when you read down, it says treaty. All right, now, the treaties or the alliance is pretty much like an agreement, whether a contract, as it jump down to part 2, it says covenant making, covenant keeping, covenant violation. Now they made 368 treaties, alliances, so to speak, right? It says a league, man to man. Now, which confederacy and which league is I'm referring to right now is pretty much with our jump to Revelations. You know what? Let me get it. Let me jump there. Jump to Revelations chapter 17. This is the confederacy and this is the alliance referring to Revelation 17 and 16, which says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. All right, so these 10 horns which you saw on the beast, they're going to hate the whore, but they were all one, okay? I didn't want to jump ahead, but I wanted to just go into the 10 horns. All right, this is what I want. Revelation 17 and 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they received power 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. For verse 17, for God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, right? The treaty, okay, covenant, and give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh shall be fulfilled. Now, there's 10 horns and the beast being joined, which is NATO and the EU, who sits on top. Because the reason why I want to read verse 16, because I want to kind of get there, is the whore, which the whore is America, which is started off with when you read Revelation 17 about the mystery Babylon the Great. All right, but it also talks about a whore that rides on top. All right, without jumping to verse 16. Right here, verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitude and nations and tongues. So America sits on top of, that's why all the nations come here. All right, you got the so-called Chinese that adapt to their dress code of their so-called East Indians, and so on and so forth. All right. So let's bring it back to Obadiah. Let's bring it back to Obadiah, because this is gonna be the last peace treaty he ever does in his life. If you ever watched that movie with Once Upon a Time, this nigga's like Rumpelstiltskin. He just want to make a deal. He want to make a deal, and he'll lock you in a contract, and his contracts is sorcery. That's what Rumpelstiltskin power was. It was his power of making a deal in a contract. All right, and you think he always do contracts with Jake, you know, and he breaks them, and that's what the prophet was going into. But for the sake of this part of the prophecy, this will be the last treaty he'd do. All right, because it's saying it right here, Obadiah, all the men of thy confederacy. So we see what the confederacy was. All right, NATO and the EU. Okay, it says, have brought thee, even thee, to the border. All right, the men that were at peace with thee. Okay, peace with thee, you know what peace means, right? So they were at peace with thee, have deceived thee. Why do you think they have deceived them? Because, and I got to jump back to Revelation 17. This is how the scriptures work, though. Precept upon precept. Now I'm gonna go to verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So why do you think they deceived them? Because they started to hate the whore. Why do they hate the whore? Because they started to break different agreements. Now let's think about some of the agreements that's happening now. I could pull up some articles, but a lot of the agreements was that according to America, everybody shall use their dollar to purchase oil, which makes it a petrodollar, right? But the thing is that America is able to go and get oil from Saudi Arabia, right? Their choice picks, and then they sell it to everybody, right? But nobody else is able to go ahead and buy oil from, let's say, like from what's the other guy? America hates Syria, the guy in Syria, pretty much, or oil in Iran and these other lands, right? Because they're not using the petrodollar. They're going up another way. So these 10 horns, all right, the European Union, they're closer to these other countries, and they don't mind using it. They don't mind getting oil from one of the big beefs was between Germany and the U.S. They had tension because, they were like, yo, dude, how you getting oil from Russia? Like, we don't really bot with them like that. Like, you're supposed to be doing it underneath the dollar. So there's a big pull away from using a petrodollar, which hurts the U.S. But anyway, the point of the matter is that these are some of the contracts that they kind of like have, and they got to use certain banks, certain SWIFT accounts. But see, here's one of the key points. All right. When they put sanctions on Iran and they freeze their account, Iran doesn't make any more money from selling oil, which hurts the other individuals from the EU if they're getting oil from them, because my account is frozen. So I'm not going to sell you no oil because I'm not, so it affects you. It starts to hurt you. The moves that I'm doing to freeze these guys' accounts is starting to hurt you. It's, so they're hating the whore from the different individuals they're messing up. One of the other ones was with China with the 5G chips in the 5G and then the chips, because they got a real they have a big grip on the patents. So they was telling the EU, don't be using no more. They put out to them in Germany, don't buy no more, don't use China's 5G. Let me get some of these articles. U.S. tells Europe not to use China 5G. Right, basically it was like a big recall. All right, see? Here you go, Reuters. U.S. warns European allies not to use Chinese gear for 5G networks. As Britain bans Huawei, U.S. pressure mounts on Europe to follow suit. You see? This is what I'm saying. This is the different things that are going on. The whore is on top of the beast. And what's going on is they pushing them to follow suit, but it's messing up their deals. All right. And eventually, Europe will not follow the U.S. China 5G free strategy. Eventually, What they're gonna look and be like, yo, bro, I'm not messing up my relationship because you don't mess with them. These guys are giving me what I need, and they're pretty much gonna hate the whore. Slocky. Let me go back to this. That was just one example. That's just one example. There's probably a history of more things of a deeper that you could get into much more deeper, but that alone was a recent one with 5G. Now you also got one with the oil. That's a big thing with the oil, because the oil is a that's a big commodity, man. So that's another thing, how the oil is being purchased. Let's see, US. Let me just show you that US. German, part of that beast, NATO and EU. Russia. Right? Basically, they didn't want to have. See, Trump scolded, Rush scolded Germany. This is in 2018. So yes, it may be 2 years ago, a year ago, or even in 2020. But remember, these are situations that build up. Trump scolded Germany for buying gas from Russia. So once again, they're cutting. They don't want them to do any deals, okay? Because they're part of what this why Germany may pull plug on Russia pipeline, because they're part of, as we read in Revelation 17. They made a treaty to be one, okay? But their treaty is hurting up other treaties that these other countries have with them, and ultimately the U.S. is not upholding to whatever other treaties that they have with the NATO and with the NATO and the EU, and that's what they was talking about. Who with Trump and them all had to sit down. EU not contributing GDP. So Trump, NATO, Trump. What does the U.S. contribute to NATO in Europe? So they have treaties, they have deals. They're supposed to contribute a certain amount of money. All right, and everybody's not holding up to their end of the deal. It says United States President Trump believes Europe, NATO members are not spending enough to support the alliance and are relying on the U.S. to shoulder the burden. So this was a big thing. Mr. Trump has accused Germany of being delinquent in its payments to NATO and said, we don't want to be suckers anymore. The United States says it will move nearly 20,000 troops out of the country, some of whom will go elsewhere in Europe. So what does the U.S. contribute towards NATO compared with other members? So this is where the truce in the deals are really, 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 like, it gets more sensitive, because they got this group, they're giving it to the beast, but they're supposed to contribute. And they're like, yo, no, not everybody's holding up to their end of the deal. It says nearly 70% of total spending on defense by NATO governments is accounted for by the U.S. So they're like, the U.S. spends 70% of the NATO. Now, you know who they really getting that from. They're getting that from from our taxes. Like they're come on, man. It says, but the U.S. is a global superpower with military commitments around the world and not just in Europe, right? Because they don't keep at home. In terms of its gross domestic GDP, all right, gross domestic product, the total value of goods produced and services, the U.S. spent roughly 3.4% on defense in 2019, according to the NATO estimate, while the average in European NATO countries and Canada was 1.55%. We have now agreed a new formula for sharing costs. The U.S. will pay less, Germany will pay more. So you see, this is what they're saying. But once again, are these deals going to be held up upon? And no, they're not, because they have to be. There's going to be truce breaking going on, right? And that's ultimately going to be this judgment, all right? These are all Edomites at the end of the day. Let's really break down to. I know I'm saying America, but it just hit me like, well, this is all Esau. So they're just all going to be screwing each other over because Esau is a truce breaker, when he told Jacob, hey, I'm not gonna come after you. And then he goes after Jacob. He's a truce breaker just by nature, as the prophet brought out. So I didn't really want to go too, because watch that video. Like I said, a lot of that Psalms 55 was bad, man. Um, he's a truce breaker. And these articles right here, they show you that. They show you that. Okay, they show you that. Why you think they went to war with these? They have relations with these other countries, all right, and they broke their truce and they wanted to take over and they wanted more. They've been doing this consistently. They did it with the so-called natives. They doing it with the other heathens over there, and they'll continue doing it. All right, but this will ultimately be the last one they do, because dealing with this NATO and the EU, there's their treaties that they have. And it's funny because NATO actually means, I think, Northern Alliance Treaty. Let me see. What does NATO stand for? Yeah, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So it's funny. They are established on a treaty, but they are treaty breakers. So this place is going to fall. We say Satan stand divided, house divided. Who can stand? Come on. But you know what? I'll get that. You know what? Let me finish this first. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns I which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Okay? They're going to all break this North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They're truce breakers. So guess what? They're going to break the truce and they're going to hate one another for it. But this time when they do it, they're going to fire off on each other. It's going to say it. It's going to say, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So that's talking about with nuclear missiles. They are going to do that. They either have nuclear treaties. All right. A lot of things is going to be broken and all things is going to go out the window because, as the prophet was bringing out, they're truce breakers. But this is the last treaty that will be broken that will pretty much lead them to their destruction. So you're going to fall by your own device. You who makes treaties and break them, you're going to fall by that own device. You're going to fall by your own device. And it's right here prophesied, talking about it in Revelation 17 and in Obadiah. And as I was quoting was from Matthews, that, when Satan cast out Satan, right? They're breaking treaties with one another. How shall they stand? Obadiah 1 and 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, right? And prevailed against thee that they that eat thy bread, okay, have laid the wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Right? Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? So that's what the Most High has planned on doing. But what he's going to do it with, he's going to do it with exactly what this devil does. He's going to do it with him making a treaty and breaking it. And that's how all hell is going to break loose. Ain't that something? That's powerful. That's a powerful video. Once again, the priest Karak Al-Kahan did, so check that out. I just wanted to add to it. Lord's will was edifying, because that's going to be his last treaty that he breaks. So with that being said, shalom. You're going to fall by your own